So hey anime fans, the series name is What If Naruto Became Vampire Princess. So let's start the series. The sound of chains fills the ears of a certain blonde-haired and whiskered hero, or rather, former Konohagakure hero, who has been tortured and his chakra sealed in this cell for 6 months. The same people who applauded him for defeating pain now demand his death because the new Rokudaime Hokage, Danzo Shimura, the shadow of Konoha, used the Godaime Hokage Tsunade Senju's coma to take his place as Hokage and immediately repealed the Sandaime's law about Naruto. The news is met with hatred and anger, replacing the love and admiration they once showed for him. The Ino Shikacho trio stood up for him, or 2 of them did, but Naruto told them not to because of the deaths of the Ichiraku family. The Konohamaru Corp would curse his name and birth with one Hinata Hyuga, falling ill and mysteriously dying. Naruto also learned that Sasuke Uchiha had killed both Orochimaru and his brother Itachi, returning to the village and absolved of his defection. The cell door creaks open, and when he looks up, he sees Sasuke standing in the doorway, dressed in a Jonin uniform. As he approaches, Naruto maintains a neutral gaze. "Look at you, beaten, broken but still defiant," he begins. Sasuke then begins to round Naruto like a lion would a gazelle. "Seems you refuse to accept your lot in life," he says, roughly grabbing Naruto by the cheeks. "Leave me and give us some privacy," Sasuke said. The guards nod and closed the door. "At the feet of your betters, you always said you would be Hokage, but that will never happen. Everyone knows the truth, demon spawn. They would rather burn this village down and salt the earth, than allow such a creature like you to lead them," Sasuke says, slapping Naruto's face. He takes a cloth out of his pocket and wipes his hand, saying, "Perhaps I'll become Hokage as a Uchiha should be." Naruto's head slowly sags to conceal his unbridled rage, but he hears the Kyuubi's mocking laughter. The following day, Naruto is dragged to the Hokage Tower and hanged for his alleged crimes while the village cheers in sick delight. However, Danzo planned this in order to obtain the power of the Kyuubi, but fate has other ideas. 2 members secretly remove Naruto's body from the village so that their master can retrieve it, but many villagers do terrible things to his body. The 2 then proceed to a cavern that was discovered days earlier in a desolate area of the forest, where one uses jutsu to remove the false death seal, but neither of them realizes that the cavern contains a beast from long ago. Music, "My Name" by Shinedown. A dark voice hisses, "Who dares disturb my sanctuary?" One turns to have his head chopped off, while the second runs away but is captured by very shadows. "A paltry feast," the voice muses, and Naruto slowly opens his eyes to see a mass of purple-tinted shadows. "A shame a hero treated like a vilified villain," the voice says, and Naruto scoffs with a defeated chuckle and a sigh. "My last moments and I'm going crazy Databeo," he says, as the shadows move and form a severely emaciated man with blank and black eyes. "You're not crazy Uzumaki-san, I am a creature of a bygone era and this my crypt in which those fools broke into," he says, and he tries to move but realizes he cannot. "Will you listen to final words?" he asks. The man responds, "Mitsuomi Kiryu and I will Uzumaki-san," and Naruto turns his head. "I am the son of Konoha's greatest hero but treated as its greatest villain. I have taken their abuse, scorn, hate and suffered their wrath. I was betrayed by so-called friends and loved by few. I know I'm not long for this world but I have regrets. I could not repay the love that was given and repay their hate," Naruto says and coughs up blood. Mitsuomi listens in silence but places his shriveled hand on Naruto's chest. "Your story is like mine in a way, hated for things not of your control, loved by very few. I have an offer, Uzumaki-san. I will give your revenge through me, Mitsuomi declares. Inside Naruto's seal, the Kyuubi no Yoko listens and hisses, of all the things to find him, a vampire, Ningen, do let him do this, the fox shouts, but internally, the kid will die and I'll just reform, but at cost of 3 tails, the fox thought. Naruto weakly raises his hand onto Mitsuomi's hand. Why you would do that for me, he says. Mitsuomi bites into Naruto's neck and says, HMM, because you have seen hell and your eyes remain strong, do not worry, those you love will be saved and those you hate, will die. The blonde winces in pain but slowly feels himself dying, thinking, love them in my stead, Mitsuomi. Mitsuomi slowly rises from Naruto with his body whole, his skin pale and his shoulders broad, standing 6 feet 4 inches tall, a handsome face with defined cheekbones, haunting blue eyes, and messy black hair with 2 long bangs framing his face. Mitsuomi kneels down and lifts Naruto up before shooting out of the hole, but abruptly he burst into flames from a red mist. As the night air brushed over his bare skin, Mitsuomi thought, the Kyuubi, and he took a deep breath with his arms spread apart. Thank you, Naruto Uzumaki, I will bring about your revenge, by order of the No-Life Prince, he thought, disappearing into the unknown. 3 women, however, shared a dream in which a young man with eerie steel-blue eyes declared he would save them from their shared nightmares. Song ends. In just 5 years, Konohagakure would undergo a significant transformation. Its shinobi were trained in ruthless efficiency and steadfast loyalty to their Hokage. The Hokage and council rule as dictators, but most people don't care because their arrogance has reached new heights. Tsunade Senju and her apprentice Shizune Kato have long since left the village for unknown reasons, but some would say it's a good thing. The legendary class, as it was then called, were all jonin, but the stain that once belonged to the class hasn't diminished. Naruto Uzumaki caused anger both inside and outside the village, as his name caused Konoha to lose allies in Wave, T, Taki, and Suna, but the Fire Daimyo supported Konoha to forge an alliance with Kyumo. The news of a revived Yuzushio catches the attention of the various countries and their secretive Yuzukage and Daimyo, but Konoha's Chunin exam could lure the Kage to Konoha to test their mettle. In the Hokage Tower Jiraiya, the last devoted Sannin stands before Danzo as Koharu goes over reports. The Akatsuki had gone underground since the battle with Pain, but rumbles echoed that they would return. Danzo asks, is there still nothing on this Yuzukage? Hamura shakes his head and adjusts his glasses. Nothing, he says, not even our spies can figure out who he is other than the fact that he is rarely seen during the day. Danzo inquires, what about your spies, Jiraiya? Nothing but rumors are surfacing that Tsunade and Shizune were spotted in Yuzushio about a month ago, Jiraiya says. Koharu and Hamura nod, but Jiraiya is unsure. Who do we send? He asks. They resigned as shinobi before we could get them, but Tsunade has given us an excuse to go to Yuzushio as a goodwill mission to invite a surviving member of one of our founding clans back to Konoha and our former sister village, Danzo explains. In the meantime, Ino Yamanaka is in her family's flower shop, arranging a variety of flowers for someone she had feelings for. Danzo suggests, why not the legendary class? Not only do we show our power to this village, but if Tsunade were to attack them, we have cause and strength to defend ourselves. The 2 elders and Jiraiya agree. Thinking of the deceased heiress, Ino pondered, why did you have to die, Naruto? I was so going to ask you out after the battle with Pain, I even would have shared you with Hinata. The shop door opens, and a very pale girl with black hair enters, her eyes matching her hair. The girl says, "Hello, Ino." Ino says, "Hey Sai, are those for Naruto Uzumaki?" Sai asks. Ino nods and smiles softly as she examines the flowers. "They are," she says. "I'll have to make one for Hinata too." She turns to face her lone friend and asks, "Why are you here?" Ino's baby blue eyes enlarge in surprise as Sai explains, "Danzo-sama has a mission for the legendary class. You are being sent to Uzushio and I am to sell myself to the Uzukage." Ino yells, "Are you serious?" "Very serious, Ino. I know we have become friends, but I serve Danzo-sama and I must do what he orders, even if I do not like it," Sai replies, before Ino hugs her. Uzushio-gakure, the land of whirlpool. As someone swims laps in a pool, Koyuki Kazahana and daimyo of Uzushio stand beside it with her advisor Tsunade Senju. "Has Konoha taken the bait?" Koyuki asks, and Tsunade folds her arms beneath her divine bust. "Yep, just as the Gaki said," she replies. The owner emerges from the water after hearing a voice say, "HMM, is that doubt in your voice?" The drenched individual has flawless black hair and steel blue eyes. "Shut up," Tsunade shouts. Koyuki said, "Mitsuomi, Konoha took the bait and they'll be sending Naruto-kun's old class." Mitsuomi twitches and slicks back his wet hair. "Well, that's better than I was expecting. I thought Danzo would send his Na or the perv, but the legendary class," he muses. Mitsuomi looks at the half-naked woman sunbathing on the other side of the pool. "Oyanko, are our genin ready for the Chunin exams next month?" he yells, lifting her sunglasses and grinning. "Well, we'll greet the legendary class, and if things work out in the Chunin exams, our other enemies may be there as well," says Mitsuomi. With a chin rub, Mitsuomi assumes a contemplative pose and responds, "Well, I am Mitsuomi Kiryu no Life Prince, but a part of me is also Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, son of Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki. I have a question that's been bothering me for a while. Are you really doing all this for Naruto?" Tsunade asks. "I'll admit, I've done things that seem impossible in the last 5 years, but I did say, I would save you from your nightmare," Mitsuomi continues. Tsunade didn't immediately respond because of the premonition she had while in a coma. "So it was you," she says, not waiting for a response, and she swims to the bottom of the 30-foot deep pool. At the bottom is a young woman with purple hair in a lotus position, but with scales on various parts of her body and gills on her neck. Naruto taps her forehead, and she opens her pupil-less onyx eyes. "Mitsuomi," she says, despite the water. Mitsuomi thought, "Hello Isaribi, I wanted to let you know that Konoha's legendary class is coming." Isaribi's mood darkens, but Mitsuomi pokes her forehead. "Don't worry about them, just concentrate on training Juvia for the Chunin exams," he says. Mitsuomi looks directly at a young girl with azure blue hair who is in a similar pose to Isaribi. Isaribi nods and returns to her meditation as Mitsuomi swims back to the surface. Anko is waiting with a towel as he climbs out. "How long have they been down there?" she asks. Anko is wearing a gray trench coat with black gloves and a sleeveless black leather top. Mitsuomi answers, wiping himself, 3 hours, 20 minutes and 8 seconds. Suddenly, a black 3-piece suit with an orange dress shirt, black tie, and gloves appears on his body. A gray trench coat hangs from his shoulders, and a silver chain hangs from his right pocket. Anko follows Mitsuomi, but she begins to reminisce about how she ended up joining Uzushio. "I owe you my life," Anko muses. Mitsuomi pauses and turns to face her, grinning. Think nothing of it, Anko. Konoha was ready to kill you. Besides, imagine their faces seeing the true power of Anko Mitarashi, no longer stifled by a lecherous pedo's mark. Anko touches her neck where her mark used to be. Both those Kurenai and Yugao are going pay for me and Yakumo, she hisses. Mitsuomi laughs as they arrive at a training area, or pit as he called it, which is dug into the ground about 25 feet deep and 30 feet squared. As Mitsuomi leans on the railing, he asks, "Are you ready for Kagura to take the Chunin exams, Yakumo?" Yakumo is wearing a red combat dress with mesh leggings into ankle-length boots, shin guards, and forearm guards with bandages to her elbows and gloves. "Yakumo Karen, how's it coming?" Mitsuomi exclaims. Karen Uzumaki is dressed in a gray flak jacket, a long-sleeved white shirt, a purple tie, black cuffs on her wrists, black boots, and black shorts, with a gray flak jacket signifying her Tokubetsu Jonin rank. Yakumo said, "Hi, I look forward to her putting those fools in their place." Mitsuomi then turned his attention to 3 sparring because they were 2 of his personal bodyguards and pillars. The first was a woman with long, dirty blonde hair in a ponytail, wearing a black leather top with wide sleeves, a black miniskirt with knee-length boots, and a gray trench coat draped on her shoulders. The second was a woman with pixie brown hair who was gracefully avoiding the first, wearing a similar outfit with normal sleeves, but her coat was on the railing across from Mitsuomi. The third was a young man with spiky brown hair, wearing black cargos with boots, a loose tank top, and arm-length gauntlets on his arms. "Oi Ayasu," Mitsuomi yells, and as the others continue to fight, Ayasu looks up and jumps out of the pit. "Mitsuonai," he says, and Mitsuomi bumps fists with Ayasu before turning back to fight. "What's the count?" Mitsuomi asks, looking over the railing as the 2 spar, 50 to 45 to Yum-san, but Karasuba-san has won the last 3, he explains. Mitsuonayakan, a tiny voice chirps, and the owner is a little girl of about 4 who looks like Yum and is dressed in a floral kimono. "Hello Musubi, are you behaving?" Mitsuomi asks. When another pillar member shows up, Musubi sticks her tongue out and says, "Boo Killua." Killua is about 16 and 5'2" years old, with spiky white hair, wearing black cargo pants with a white stripe down to white sneakers, a dark blue wife beater underneath a black and gray hoodie vest, and a dark blue wife beater. Mitsuomi laughs as Killua laughs heartily, "Do I gotta tell your mommy?" Musubi pales and jumps down, then rushes inside with a smoke trail to her room. "Boss, Anko said Konoha is coming," Killua asks, and Mitsuomi's demeanor turns serious as he snaps his fingers as Yum and Karasuba jump out of the pit. "You are correct, Konoha's legendary class is coming, more than like due to their spies seeing Tsunade here and the rise of their former ally, but they fail to realize is that Tsunade has been here," he begins. "Your priority is to keep her from attacking them. They'll probably antagonize her about Naruto's death and Jiraiya's betrayal. Yum and Karasuba will keep her from attacking, Killua will keep overwatch, Anko, Isaribi and Yakumo will stay hidden. No need to play all our cards till the Chunin exams," says Mitsuomi. Karasuba wonders, "Can we maim any of them?" but Yum snubs her. Yum reprimands, "We don't want to start an international incident." Mitsuomi laughs and wipes his nose. "No, we don't, but if they instigate, well, we can have some fun," he says, and Karasuba smiles. The renowned class of Konohagakure, the young heroes of Konoha, were spotted by the ship arriving in Yuzushiogakure. Ino is separated from the others as they gaze out to sea, but Sasuke is glaring at her while Sakura hangs off of him. To think she has or had a crush on that demon, Sakura remarks. Sasuke remarks, why feel sorry for the dead? It won't bring them back. Sakura yells, hey piggy, when will you have Sasuke-kun's baby? Ino looks back with a gloomy expression, and she snaps, when I drop dead. Sasuke scoffs and shakes his head, saying, you say that now but wait until I speak to your clan. Sakura titters, and the ship soon arrives at the large port of Uzushio, where they disembark right away. Niji remarks, ugh, such commoners, is there no one here to greet us? A voice says, sorry, I'm sorry, but I just got here. The group turns to see a tall young man wearing an orange dress shirt and black suit juggling knives while wearing a mask. The mask has a narrow, eerie smile, blacked-out eyes with a purple star beneath the left eye and a pink heart over the right. Sakura asks, who are you? Mitsuomi tilts his head in a strange position and says, who is but the form following the function of what, and what I am is a man in a mask. Kiba scoffs, sneering and glaring, we can see that, and Akamu barks. Mitsuomi laughs and cocks his hip and says, of course you can, I'm not questioning your powers of observation, I just find it ironic, one would ask a man in a mask, who he is. Shikamaru says, sir, we are from Konoha on a goodwill mission concerning someone from our village and reconnect with our old ally. Mitsuomi resumes his routine, this time on a ball. Do you mean Tsunade Senju? Then follow me, he chirps, guiding them to a spacious open carriage with 4 black horses. I'm Mitsuomi, by the way, Mitsuomi says. Shikamaru remarks, it's amazing to see Uzushio reviving. As the horses take off, everyone hops aboard, and Mitsuomi shakes his head while wearing a mask. Yes, a lot of hard work, he adds, turning to look behind him. As Kiba is about to strike, Sasuke flashes his EMS and hisses, sit down, don't embarrass us. That's amazing, Mitsuomi replies, shocking them by agreeing with Kiba. However, he glances back again but tilts his head, adding, it's so amazingly pathetic. You forget we are in Uzushio-gakure, we don't want to blow things, says Sakura. They're right, Mitsuomi says, such actions could be construed as hostile. When the carriage reaches the daimyo residence, everyone follows the vampire inside. What capacity do you serve here in Uzushio? Shino asks. Mitsuomi opens the doors to the throne room with an adjoining balcony, and Koyuki sits on her throne. Tsunade stands off to the side, with Yum and Karasuba flanking her. So this is the famed class of the Konoha, who made a name for themselves in the Konoha Crush and Pain's invasion, thought Karasuba. Mitsuomi turns with a bow and his hand on his heart, apologies, allow me to reintroduce myself, I am Mitsuomi Uzumaki Kiryu, Shodame Yuzukage of Uzushio-gakure, he says, shocking some of them. When Kiba yells, PFFF Uekage, Mitsuomi laughs and tilts his head before pointing to Koyuki. Then ask my daimyo whom appointed me, he says, and Koyuki gives him a serious look and flinches. I know the village of Uzushio-gakure is still in its infancy compared to its past or even Konohagakure, but do not doubt my choice for Kage, she says. Ino says, Lady Koyuki, please forgive him. But why are you in Uzushio? Were you not the daimyo of Snow Country? Koyuki sighs as her face darkens. 3 years ago, a catastrophic earthquake struck our country, killing many people, she begins, turning to face Mitsuomi. The vampire grinned behind his mask as Koyuki continued, but Mitsuomi gave us a place to live and rebuild, we owe him so much. You should have come to Konoha, not some backwater country that was destroyed years ago, Sasuke replies. Mitsuomi folds his arms behind his back and says, Now, Karasuba, no need insult them, they are the legendary class of Konoha, children of the illustrious clans on Konohagakure, but forgive me, wasn't there one more? Lady Koyuki told me about him. Had just like the leaf to think they're above everyone, he said. Mitsuomi flicks his fingers and declares, Naruto Uzumaki. How he brought spring to Snow Country, how he saved Konoha's allies on several occasions, but for the life of me I don't know his name, Naru, Boro. Kiba yells, how that dobe was killed for the demon he was. Though not often, I agree with the dog, the dobe was killed for not submitting to his betters and bringing destruction to our village, Sasuke says. He was killed out of fear, the leaf wanted a weapon but a dumb weapon easy to control, however Naruto gave so much for a village who honors traitors, Tsunade coldly said. Sakura yells, don't talk about Sasuke-kun like that bitch. Koyuki gets up from her seat and says, please calm down Tsunade-sama. Now why have you come other than goodwill? Tsunade yells, you fools forget Naruto brought me back to the village, yet when he left and all of you nearly died, you blamed Naruto. Lord Hokage wishes for Lady Tsunade to return to Konoha as the last surviving Senju, begins the Tenten. Also, since Uzushio and Konoha were former allies, we would like rekindle that relationship, said Shikamaru. With a phony smile on her face, Mitsuomi lets out a breath as Karasuba snorts and Yum covers her mouth as the vampire gets closer. Then, she takes Sai's hand and touches him to check whether he is truly dickless. Last but not least, I am Sai and Lord Rokudame offers me to you as concubine, dickless. Mitsuomi states, as you can see, I am not dickless. You leaf people continue to disappoint me, selling one of your own, coming here under goodwill. No, you want to control Tsunade-sama, but she is a member of Uzushio as Lady Koyuki's advisor and the boss, says Karasuba. Mitsuomi tilts his head towards Sasuke and responds, your point, Konoha is being generous, your country was annihilated years ago. Yes, it was, 3 of the 5 great villages saw fit to wipe out our country, but we few Uzumaki remember how our only allies saw fit not to aid us, under the guise of being too late, Mitsuomi says. What do you mean, our forces were late, Niji sneers. Mitsuomi wags his finger and points to the Tsunade. Tsunade-sama has revealed such things to me. I know you believe in fate and are glad your cousin died. I know Rock Lee is useless without his taijutsu and wouldn't be here if not for my deceased clansmen. I know Tenten Higurashi is useless sheeple that follows the crowd. I know Sakura Haruno is a useless fangirl despite being trained by Tsunade-sama. I also know you spit on the memory of said clansman, he replies. That demon got lucky and people died because of him, Sakura screeches. Mitsuomi fixes his mask with a tilt on his forehead. So Naruto deserved to die for something not of his control. He was hanged and his body desecrated after death because of what? Having a biju inside him. When you pour ramen in a bowl, does the bowl become ramen? No, it's the container, as was Naruto. He was the container, not the biju, he continues. What the hell do you know? Naruto was a demon in human skin, says Tenten. From the balcony, Killua exclaims, wow, such tension. He surveys the group but scoffs with his hands over his head, thinking, some class, I bet any of the pillars could beat M. Kiba cries, what did you say, brat, as Niji glares. Mitsuomi remarks in a sickeningly sweet and mocking manner, what Killua said was any of my 4 pillars could defeat any of you. Karasuba smirks and advances, saying, I agree with you Killua, with the exception of the Uchiha or Sleepy over there. I say any of the 4 pillars could take them with ease. Yum declares, I could defeat the boy in spandex with minimal effort. Lee advances, his eyes burning, but Mitsuomi claps his hands as he says, hi, then how about a wager, my 4 pillars versus Lee, Niji, Tenten, and Kiba. If you win, Tsunade will return to Konoha, but if you lose, Ms. Sai and possibly Ms. Yamanaka will stay here until the Chunin exams in a month. Sakura yells, we would never agree to that and we only see 3 pillars. Mitsuomi turns to face the others and gives them a childlike hand slap. Our 4th pillar doubles as a Jonin sensei, so how about I step in, he asks, counting on his fingers. How about Yum faces Lee, Killua faces Kiba, Karasuba faces Tenten, and Niji faces me sounds alright, he continues. Shikamaru, Choji, and Shino shook their heads as Ino sighed in disgust. You do know the stakes, Ino stated, but he was curious to learn more about Mitsuomi. We accept, Kiba shouted suddenly, without waiting for everyone else's response. Mitsuomi claps his hands and beckons them to follow him. Follow me and we'll get this done, he says, leading them to the pit and turning with a flap of his coat. Come on Piggy, these nobodies couldn't beat the legendary class, Sakura says. Tsunade nearly couldn't hide the smirk on her face. Those idiots fell for it, hook, line and sinker. Who would like to go first or we can wait till tomorrow to give you time to prepare, asks Mitsuomi. Killua jumps down with his hands in his pockets as Kiba yells, we go now, and Mitsuomi yells, Killua, go easy on him. Music, Tension, Baki 2018 OST. Don't underestimate me brat, Kiba growls, and Killua leaps forward with his palm inches from Kiba's face. Raitun, Jibashi, he says, and Kiba collapses into a heap. Kiba was the weakest among us, Niji counters, as Killua brings Kiba out with Akamaru in tow. Sashoryu, she yells, firing her weapons, and Karasuba plants her feet. Itoryu, Sanjiroku pound ho, she says, swinging wide, and Tenten jerks as all of her weapons were parried away, sunshining behind the blonde, but Karasuba avoids. It seems you rely on weapons on Nanoko, says Karasuba. Tenten snatches 2 kunai in a reverse grip, but Karasuba sheathes her sword and leaves. You're not a challenge, I'm bored, Karasuba says, and Tenten jumps out of the pit with a frown. That's a forfeit, we win that one, Sakura yells, and Lee notices the irate expression on Tenten's face as she approaches Lee. Lee-kun, if you win, I will let you have me, Sakura whispers, and Lee ignites with his youthful fire. Yosh my youth will burn brightly, yells Lee, and Yum waits patiently as he jumps in and bows before the bowl cut comes in. But it ends in a matter of seconds, as Lee is on the ground, and Sakura yells, what the hell Lee? Sasuke has his Sharingan activated, and he is the only person in sight aside from a certain vampire and Yum. It's impossible, Sasuke thought, and Shikamaru sighed as he rubbed his forehead. Mendo kusai, he muttered. Mitsuomi hopped on the railings and laughed. Well, it's my turn, he said, and Niji fell into the pit with Mitsuomi in tow. I won't be easily beaten like them, he said, activating his Byakugan. Mitsuomi responds, no, but I think it will be easier. Niji moves into his soft fist stance, but the vampire surprises them by coming up to Niji and removing his left glove in an attempt to show respect. Niji then slams a palm strike directly at Mitsuomi's face, shattering his mask as he stumbles back. Sakura yells, Ha, take that baka. The pieces of the mask fall to the ground as Niji smirks, but Mitsuomi laughs. I do believe you killed my mask, Mitsuomi says, exposing his face. Ino's baby blue eyes widen and flicker at the sight of Mitsuomi's handsome face. He is the one from my premonition, she thinks. Sasuke-kun is so much hotter, Sakura scoffs at Mitsuomi's handsome face. Wow, if one those hit me, I'm toast, Mitsuomi jokes, backpedaling. Niji keeps up the pressure and Mitsuomi keeps dodging, but more at the last second, shocking the others but not his pillars. Hold still, peasant, is what Niji yells, but Naruto snatches his outstretched hand. He hardly moves the arm, and Niji screams in pain from a broken arm. He drops the Hyuga prodigy to the ground and takes the hand for a pleasant handshake. Before jumping out, Mitsuomi remarked, "Hello again, I'm Mitsuomi Uzumaki Kiryu and not peasant." She looked up at the astonished expressions of the legendary class, but more at the contented expressions on Ino's face. Mitsuomi notes, so by virtue of 3-1, we win and Ms. Yamanaka and Sai will remain here until the Chunin exams. Shikamaru rubs his head and murmurs, he's right, you guys lost the moment Kiba opened his big mouth. Mitsuomi takes a pair of sunglasses from his coat and puts them on with a nod. Very observant, Mr. Nara, then again you were always the smart one, he remarks, and Shikamaru furrows his brow. Koyuki and Tsunade reunite with the group and observe Sakura tending to Niji, as well as the angry expressions on Lee, Tenten, and Kiba. Sakura leaves Niji and is ready to charge Tsunade when Ino gives her a hard slap, putting her on the ground. So the legendary class isn't so legendary, the slug Sannin observes. You have disgraced Konoha with your comments and actions today. If Koyuki-sama or Kiryu-sama wanted, we could all be imprisoned, Ino replied sternly. Mitsuomi snorts and chuckles gently before breaking out in loud laughter, and his pillars sneer as Sakura shot, like this paltry country could defeat Konoha. Oh really, then ask Iwa about our might, Karasuba responds. Ha ha ha, they wouldn't know, ha ha ha, that little old man, ha ha ha, I'm sorry, I'll control this, ha 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 ha, but I'm failing. He wouldn't dare let that news be known, ha ha ha, Mitsuomi says. Why wouldn't he? Shikamaru asks. Tsunade shakes her head and looks at Mitsuomi. 6 months ago, Lady Koyuki tried to form an alliance with Iwa, by sending Mitsuomi and the pillars, but the old fence-sitter decided to get upset, and the price was 4 broken ribs, an arm, a jaw, and his back, not including the 100 beaten shinobi, she explains. Ino looks at Mitsuomi with wide eyes. Sakura exclaims, "Ache, Sasuke-kun could do that with ease." Mitsuomi leaps on the railing in a JoJo pose, and he croons, "Yeah, and his feisty granddaughter too." Tsunade remarks, they didn't stand a chance without their Jinchuriki. Koyuki says, now our Chunin will escort you to a hotel in the city, and I would like to extend a welcome to stay here until you return. Ms. Yamanaka, Ms. Sai. 2 kunoichi appear via leaf shunshin. The first is tall and brown-haired, wearing a short, backless, red full-body suit over mesh armor, a long blue-green apron skirt that is open in the front, a pair of gloves that reach her arms, and a light orange sash. She also has bandages on her wrists, covering her entire right left, as well as her left thigh and leg with a gray flak jacket. The second has black hair and green eyes and is dressed in a form-fitting gray-colored kunoichi uniform, complete with a right shoulder guard, gray gloves, and an opening in her shirt that shows some of her cleavage. Koyuki commands, Shizuka, Tokiwa, please escort them to the Gift of Spring Hotel, and both bow. Shizuka responds, yes, milady. The party reluctantly follows them, but Sai and Ino stay with Mitsuomi. Well, Koyuki-sama, I'll take my leave and escort them to my residence on your order, Mitsuomi replies. As she and Tsunade enter the house again, Koyuki adds, of course Mitsuomi. Mitsuomi grabs Ino's and Sai's shoulder and says, won't take a minute, before the three disappear in a black flash. They resurface in the garden of a little two-story house. What was that? Exclaims Ino. Ino is shocked when Mitsuomi says, it's the Hiration of the legendary yondaime. The house has a private hot spring, an outdoor bath, and a back deck to the garden. How? Ino asks, how can you know the Hiration of our yondaime? Mitsuomi leads them to a table on the deck and motions for them to sit. I'll answer that, but I take it you have other questions, he says. With a gentle expression in his eyes, Mitsuomi crosses his legs and responds, yes, are you the one from a premonition I had 5 years ago today? I am, but to truly understand that, I must explain what I am known as a vampire, he says, pausing to allow it to sink in. Both of their eyes enlarge as Mitsuomi explains, however, 5 years ago, I met the one you both know as Naruto Uzumaki. As Ino tries to comprehend this, Mitsuomi unties his necktie and strokes his head. Why you met Naruto, but how? He begins, pausing. Danzo sought the power of the Kyubi, he was put into a false death-like state, his na brought him to a crypt they found, but in the process they awoke me. The vampire nods as Sai adds, that explains why Danzo-sama was angered by Naruto's disappearance from the crypt. I listened his story and he asked to save those he cared about and make the ones who harmed pay for their crimes, responds Mitsuomi. Mitsuomi gets up from his seat and walks around the table to look at Ino in her baby blue. I am sorry, Ino, I felt I needed to be worthy, so I set to work building a place for you and other to be safe, he says. If this is true, why did you wait 5 years to save us? We have been through so much. Hinata died, my fellow rookies treat me like a leper, even my parents look down on me for not siding with the crowd. I know I can't replace Naruto, but I will try to help you as best I can, says Mitsuomi. How did you pull all this off? Uzushio was wiped out, Ino inquires, and the two slowly return to their seats. Officially Spring Country suffered an earthquake, but unofficially, I moved everything and everyone from Spring to here after I rebuilt this place with thousands upon thousands of clones. I also spent the years gathering allies, some you know and others you don't. I came to Konoha several times to liberate certain things and people, Mitsuomi responds. It is sealed inside the sacred scroll, I believe. Sai asks, how did you learn the Hiration? Mitsuomi takes off his jacket and reveals a tattoo on his left sleeve. Mine is more akin to your Nidaime Hokage instead of his father, he says, raising both eyebrows. This is ironic. Naruto's father is practically revered and his son is hated. If the people of Konoha had treated him as the yondaime wanted, he would be their strongest shinobi, Ino declares. Mitsuomi leans back and giggles. Now allow me to show you to your rooms for the night. I still need to attend to my Kage duties, he says. As he walks them through the modest house and on to the second floor, Ino says, we can share a room. He unlocks a door to reveal a king-size 4-poster bed with dark blue bedding and drapes. Mitsuomi adds, please enjoy, and slips into the shadows. Ino enters slowly, accompanied by Sai. This is very strange and such a being exists, Sai questions, and Ino collapses onto the bed. We have a month to find out everything about him, she responds. Yuzukage Tower, Mitsuomi emerges from the shadows as the woman looks up. I heard Konoha sent their famed class, she says, as he takes off his overcoat and sits on the sofa next to it. The very same Conan and I managed to capture in Yamanaka for the month, but also Danzo sent me one of his drones, he says, crossing his legs, and Conan sighs dismissively. So it begins, she says. With a set of reading glasses appearing, Mitsuomi responds, yeah, to save from their collective nightmares and make Konoha understand their sins. Conan looks at the vampire who saved her life thanks to an entity that holds a fragment of the person who became the bridge to peace. Mini flashback. When Toby puts his hand around her throat, Conan feels as though her life is being choked away. When this genjutsu is over, you will die and I will have the Rinnegan, he says coldly. Conan tries to stop him, but her eyes dim. Is that any way to treat a beautiful lady? A voice asks. Conan collapses into the water, coughing, with Toby's back to her and a figure with eerie steel blue eyes staring back as she faints. Mini flashback end. Conan gets up from her chair and shows off her figure. She is wearing a black sweater with a black high-heel boot and a white pleated skirt that reaches her ankles. Mitsuomi looks up as she sits down next to him, and he sits at the desk. Conan, have you found him yet? He asks, and Conan crosses her legs and frowns, obscuring her beauty. No, I've looked in every Akatsuki base I know, but Obito has proven elusive, but there is one place I will try, she says. Mitsuomi signs a number of papers and says, be careful, I do not wish to lose my right hand after all. Conan quickly excuses herself to go to bed as the vampire continues with his vain life, thinking, such a vile creation. Mitsuomi examines the various papers as the door opens and Tsunade enters, asking, something on your mind? Without looking up. The blonde beauty sits down as the vampire reads a document, and she says, I wish to become like you. Mitsuomi looks up blankly and asks, care to repeat that? Tsunade repeats, I said I want to become like you. Mitsuomi throws his glasses on the desk and rubs his eyes. Why? Because of Jiraiya and his betrayal, he says. Tsunade's honey-brown eyes flicker as she gets up from the sofa. You house a part of my only family, Konoha has taken enough from me and I want the power to make them pay, she says. Mitsuomi looks at Tsunade's resolute face in disbelief. Mitsuomi slowly gets up from his seat and closes the gap to lift her chin. You thought this through. Even the possibility of becoming part of me or a ghoul has not deterred you, he says, smiling. I already taken steps, thanks to my jutsu. I harvested a dozen of my eggs over the past 2 years. Shizune has agreed to be my surrogate if I chose to continue the Senju name. I am asking you to give me the power to avenge my family, to correct the mistake of their arrogance, Tsunade responds. He. Interesting, I will honor your request Tsunade Senju, Mitsuomi says, kissing her cheeks. It would be my honor, he adds. As Tsunade turns around, tears stream down her cheeks. Now close your eyes, he says, covering them with his hand. Mitsuomi edges closer to her neck as she slowly tenses, before his fangs pierce her neck and a voiceless scream emerges. Mitsuomi greedily drinks her blood while his free hand grips her waist as she struggles, but she slowly relaxes. Hissing, he pulls away, bites his tongue to fill his mouth with blood, and vomits some of Tsunade's blood to mix before re-engaging his fangs in her neck. A real scream erupts from Tsunade's mouth as her blood flows through her veins, spreading like white fire through every muscle and to her brain. Her entire being trembles with pain, and Mitsuomi summons countless shadow hands to hold her as she flies around, but she seizes when her heart stops. Suddenly, an itching sensation appears in Tsunade's body, like ants crawling over her form, and she exclaims, "It hurts," as red seeps from her eyes. "I know, but you must endure," Mitsuomi says in a serious tone. Tsunade's jaw clenches as her new fangs emerge from her gums, and her insides tremble and pulse with her breath creating a mist. Mitsuomi feels ungodly strength pushing on him, but he raises his own to keep her place as her skin pales and she transitions from her 50s to her early 20s. Tsunade opens her blurry eyes, and he says, "Tsunade, drink," cutting his vein. A few drops land on her parted lips, and Tsunade quickly latches on with both hands, her eyes turning hollow with black sclera and golden irises, but the blue-eyed vampire arches an eyebrow at the scent of arousal. As Tsunade pants heavily but pouts, Mitsuomi pulls his wrist away. "That's enough for tonight," he says, stroking her blood-stained cheek. Tsunade just stares but leans into his touch, whispering, "Don't leave me, please." Mitsuomi settles on top of her and gives her a gentle cheek kiss. "I won't leave you, I will teach you everything you need to know," he responds. Mitsuomi takes them to his bedroom and places her on the bed, letting her slide under the dark blue covers as she is overcome by the overwhelming feeling of sleep. Mitsuomi kisses her temple and murmurs, "Rest and be reborn, Tsunade Senju, when you awaken, you will desire me." He shuts the drapes, but his eyes glaze over and he lets out a growl before disappearing. With his arms folded behind his back, Mitsuomi says, "This is a foreign country, Sasuke-san. It is unwise to travel to restricted places." Mitsuomi then reappears on the street in front of Sasuke, who tsks. Reaching for his chikudo, Sasuke adds, "So what, this should be a glorious day for your paltry country." But something chilly brushes the base of his neck, causing his eyes to open. "That would be unwise, Sasuke-san," Mitsuomi remarks, directly behind him. The next day, the group of Konoha shinobi, minus Ino and Sai, meet outside the hotel. "How did he get behind me?" Sasuke thought as Mitsuomi, holding a 1911 Colt with a serious expression on his face, said, "Remember this moment, the next time, you choose to go where you not wanted." Sasuke quickly spun around, but Mitsuomi was gone. "What the hell?" Sasuke thought. Sakura asks, "Sasuke-kun, what's wrong?" But Sasuke dismisses her when the carriage from the day before unexpectedly shows up with Mitsuomi, Sai, and Ino. "Hello once again, since your group is leaving this afternoon, I thought I would give you a tour of our village," Mitsuomi says, foregoing his suit coat and mask for the day as the group reluctantly boards the open carriage. The horses neigh as the carriage moves, and Niji, still in shock over his defeat, asks, "How do you police your village? I hardly have seen any Umbu or shinobi." Mitsuomi points to several individuals wearing black military uniforms, explaining, "Well, our village is relatively small in terms of the Big Five. Our police force is made of the men and women you see in black. They are the Nanba Police Force or NPF led by Hajime Sugoroku and his wife Momoko Hayakushi. As for shinobi forces, I can't comment for obvious reasons." As the carriage stops at a school's gates, Kiba yells, "I bet they're all weak." Mitsuomi remained silent and said, "Our first stop is our academy. It follows the curriculum of the other nations, but our graduating age is raised to 16. As they disembark, Shikamaru asks, "What about prodigies or highly talented students?" Mitsuomi turns and smiles softly. Well, those students are allowed to undertake an apprenticeship or continue their final years with an advanced curriculum and allowance to take D-rank missions, or C-rank if necessary. Upon graduations, teams are chosen with some having valuable experience going in, he explains. Sakura says, doesn't seem to be bustling. Mitsuomi looks about at the different kids and responds, well, that is to be expected, because many of the students are first-year shinobi, which is why we are sending only 2 teams to the Chunin exams. Panpakapon, a voice yells, and the group turns as a gorgeous woman with green and blonde eyes approaches with 4 small children. She is wearing a blue vest-like garment that is open like a jacket, a black skirt, pantyhose, and ankle boots, along with a sailor cap with the Uzushiogakyure symbol on it. I'd like you to meet Atego, one of our instructors, and these are the Fubuki sisters, Akatsuki, Hibiki, Izukuchi, and Inazuma, he explains. The 4 of them are all dressed alike in sarafuku, with a flower emblem on the chest, and both Akatsuki and Hibiki have black navy hats. They all have deceived hair and matching eyes. Akatsuki's hair is dark purple, Hibiki's is bleached or light bluish, Izukuchi has reddish-brown hair, and Inazuma has brown hair. The 4 said, "Hello Yuzukichi-san," bowing. Mitsuomi says, "Hello to you as well. Have you been doing well?" Akatsuki puffs out her chest. Akatsuki says, "Hi, I am a full-fledged lady after all." Mitsuomi laughs softly and surprisingly ducks under a white-sheathed nodachi, whose owner is a young woman with long purple hair in a princess cut, hazel eyes, and a white headband with a white ribbon tied in the middle in a bow, pointing straight up. The Konoha group was taken aback, but the sisters and Atego just chuckle as Mitsuomi squats on his heels with a cheeky smile. Mitsuomi remarks, "Kagura is getting better but still moving too slowly." Kagura is dressed in a lavish blazer with a gold lining and a large collar that opens to reveal a collared shirt and red tie underneath. She also has a pair of white gloves at her wrists, black tights on her legs that are tucked into knee-high boots, and a short white frilled skirt. A voice says, "She wanted to surprise you with her new sword." The group then turns to face a young man with dark blue eyes and spiky black hair who is wearing dark blue cargo pants, brown boots, a purple zip-up vest, and purple arm sleeves. Greykuen Atego glomps the boy, but then Juvia shows up and snatches Gray from him. "Mao Juvia-chan," she says, but the school bell rings, so she has to flee with the Fubuki sisters. Juvia is wearing a dark dress coat that is knee-high and has 4 light-colored buttons symmetrically placed on the chest. The coat is adorned with fur trimmings around her neck and sleeve cuffs. She also has a matching dark hat in the Russian style, which is styled with a light-colored butterfly clip that is attached to the fur trimming. Another voice asks, "Why all the ruckus?" This time, it's a young woman with long red hair wearing a white shirt with black sleeves and a black war skirt and boots. Mitsuomi clears his throat and all 4 stand at attention as Kiba yells, "Who are these runts?" These are 4 of the 6 genin heading to the Chunin exams, Kagura Mikazuchi, Gray Fullbuster, Juvia Loxer, and Urza Scarlet, he says. Kiba scoffs as Choji remarks, "They don't look tough, our genin will embarrass them." Kiba is about to retort or attack when Mitsuomi looks at him from behind his sunglasses. Now my cute genin, you should see your sensei and continue your training," he says. "I'd rather get some of that blonde than see some genin," Kina sneers. Kiba is struck by a powerful burst of ki as all 4 of them are staring at him. "Leave Atego-ne alone," they all say simultaneously. They say, "Hi Mitsuan I," and disappear through Shunshin. Mitsuomi adds, maybe we should move on. The group returns to the carriage in silence, but Ino breaks it. Quite a talented group, but they don't seem to be from here given their ages, she asks. The horses trot along as Mitsuomi nods. Koyuki-sama and I felt Yuzushio should be a place of new beginnings and opened the borders to those whom wanted a change, and our genin and 4 pillars are that result, he says. As the carriage passes through the streets, a black raven lands on Mitsuomi's shoulder. Fascinating, he muses, before it takes off. Is something wrong, Lord Yuzukage? Ino asks, and Mitsuomi looks back with an eye smile. Oh, nothing, it's just Kage's work is never done, Mizu Bunshin no Jutsu, he said. The Bunshin appears next to him and takes control as Mitsuomi rises. Excuse me, I'll meet you at docks to see our fleet, he says. He hops enough and lets gravity take over as he disappears to Shuunpa, leaving everyone dumbfounded except for Ino and Sai. The carriage continues until it reaches a forested area and the hospital, which is a 5-story building with an adjoining 3-story building for critical and intense care, as well as a lovely garden for patients to unwind in. At the hospital's entrance stands Karen, dressed in her uniform with a white coat. Hello, this is Genin Yukimaru from Well of Spring Hospital. I'm Karen Uzumaki, one of the hospital's co-directors, Karen says. Yukimaru has long, pale green hair and magenta eyes. He wears a kimono with a gray exterior and a jade green interior, cadet blue trousers with bandages down to his ankles, and sandals. Uzumaki like the demon, Karen glares over her glasses as Kiba spits. A tall man with spiky but slicked-back orange hair stands behind Kiba, wearing gray cargo pants and a black tunic shirt. Yes, and my cousin, so watch your mouth, trash, Karen hisses. Kiba raises his hand, but a hand grabs him from behind. You would wise to refrain from this Konoha shinobi, a voice remarks. When Yugo is said by Sasuke, Yugo nods but recognizes the contempt. Yugo pushes Kiba aside and responds, it's been a while, Sasuke. Karen claps her hands to attract their attention and adds, please follow me and I'll give you the tour, to which everyone complies. Yukimaru blushes as Karen continues, now this hospital was founded by Lady Tsunade and is the core of our Mednin force, Yukimaru being a prime example of this. Shikamaru inquires, so you've put into practice the medical ninja program Tsunade-sama desired for Konoha here in Yuzushio? Karen nods. A tall woman with pixie silver hair and purple eyes that are partially hidden by an eye patch, wearing a black dress suit with a gray trench coat on her shoulders and black bars on the shoulder plates, says in a new voice, Konoha really screwed up. Karen says, hello Najenda-san, and bows slightly, and Najenda follows suit. Niji and the others took offense when Najenda said, so this the class that the pillars embarrassed. Niji then said, so you're the 4th pillar, and Najenda tilted her head, asking, who told you there were only 4 pillars? Kiba yells, you're fucking Kage, while Najenda chuckles. Karen keeps the tour going while Nanda follows them. And you believed him, for high-class shinobi you're dumb, says Nanda. So how many pillars are there really? Asks Shikamaru. Najenda looks at the lazy genius. The pillars are similar to your 12 guardian ninja, she explains, smirking. And that's all I say, she adds, and Shikamaru frowns. Ino asks, what kind of techniques are used for serious injuries? Karen shakes Shikamaru out of his reverie and leads him to the observation room where Shizune is performing surgery. Well, we use various techniques, acupuncture to shiatsu, even specialized medicine, and to be frank, I wish Hinata Hyuga was still alive and continued her training. We could have reached new heights with someone of her caliber. The Byakugan could open up a whole new field of medical study, Karen says, to which Niji glares back at her. But Sakura clears her throat. Sakura remarks, "You should be sharing your notes with us to improve our medical program." I was Tsunade's student, but Karen scoffs and glares at the girl with the pink hair. Sakura glares at Karen when she replies, "Are you serious? You betrayed Tsunade-sama and Shizen-sama. I will not be sharing our works with you." The trip continues as they meet more doctors while their actual tour guide attends to a particular issue. HQ of NPF. One of the most secure facilities in Uzushio is Nanba Police Headquarters, which has 6 underground levels for inmates and 5 above as the NPF's headquarters. Inside one of its interrogation rooms was Nanba Momoko Hayakushi, the commander and warden. Momoko was wearing a burgundy suit with her nameplate on her left breast, a red tie, and an armband that read "Warden." On top of her tie, there was a gold medallion with the kanji for 100, and 2 gold bars on her collar. She was wearing white gloves with red hearts encircled by gold. She also wears knee-high black boots with 6 silver stripes, each with a heart surrounded by gold that gradually gets bigger as it goes up, and both boots have gold decoration at the top and bottom. She usually wears her warden hat with a gold adornment with 2 spikes sticking upwards. She also wears a black belt around her waist with a half-demon-like face in gold with spikes. "I'll ask one last time, why were you and your compatriot sneaking around Lady Koyuki's palace?" Momoko asks, but the shinobi stays silent with his fake smile. The young man across from her had dark skin, whitish hair, and ink-colored eyes. The shinobi was dressed in all black, and his midriff was exposed during a brief altercation with her. "Fucking bastard," Momoko thought as she looked out through the one-way mirror at her most trusted guards, which included her husband of Seimin Goku, Kiji Mitsuba, and Kenshiro Yazakura, also known as Kiji, Inu, and Saru. Kiji wears the standard black Nanba uniform, adorned with turquoise and violet beads, a collar with greenish turquoise feathers, and a pair of black high-heeled shoes with golden pheasant feathers at the end. Inu, on the standard guard uniform, but with a pink haori with sakura patterns and a red belt that has a movable long red tail attached. He also has 2 gongs on his shoulders and a red belt with gold and green ornaments. The Inu remarks, "I wonder what country he's from." Yuzukage-sama is very thorough on border security. Kiji looks at his reflection in his compact, and he says, "They could be from Konoha due to Lady Tsunade and the legendary class being here." A voice coos, "Very astute, my lovely Kiji," and Kiji blushes as the hall grows darker and Mitsuomi emerges from the shadows. "They are known as the Na and are the personal force of the current Hokage," he says. "How many were sent?" Mitsuomi adds, raising his glasses. Saru salutes and says, "A squad of 8, all were detained by us and brought here but they refused to talk." Mitsuomi smiles and pats Saru on the head. Sir, why do you always stroke me on the head?" Saru asks. Mitsuomi rubs his chin while keeping his hand on Saru's head. "Sorry, but you're the perfect height and Momoko does it too," Mitsuomi responds. Saru makes a childlike face as he says, "My pride." Momoko tsks and murmurs, "Lousy bastard." Mitsuomi looks at the shinobi through the glass, but his eyes narrow. He has a seal on his tongue that won't allow him reveal anything, he says, revealing his fangs. "Except from me," he adds, then enters by locking the door. "So you won't talk or can't," he muses. The shinobi questioned, "Are you the Yuzukage?" Mitsuomi twitches as he circles the desk and runs his gloved finger down it. I bet your master has been chomping at the bit to learn the strength of our country, he says, moving his gloved fingers up his arm. As Mitsuomi circles him and stops only inches from his left cheek, Saito furrows his brow and says, "You see, I know all about Konoha and others trying to learn everything about Uzushio or our technology." Naruto continues, "No need to be nervous, Saito." "Then Danzo-sama will have it," remarks Saito. Mitsuomi twitches while lying on the desk and asks, "Oh really, and why is that?" Saito furrows his brow once more and responds, "He is the Hokage." Mitsuomi responds, "And that entitles him to everything." Momoko and other onlookers gaze in wonder. "Like a spider with a fly," she says. "Spider and fly?" asks Saru, and Momoko smirks as she looks in his direction. "It's a story. A spider slowly entices a fly into its nest, but in his case he tells it differently. In his case he is much larger spider that instead of weakening the prey, he allows the prey to grow fat and strong then attacks," she explains. "I'm curious as to why Danzo would send you, but to be honest I'm not," Mitsuomi muses as he leaps off the table. 5 years Konoha and others have tried to infiltrate our borders. Kyumo sent 2 bolt units to test us. I sent back their heads in a gift-wrapped box. Danzo sent 1 too, but they never returned, Mitsuomi continues, then abruptly crosses over to Mitsuomi croons, "Do you know why?" as he stares into emotionless eyes. Suddenly, the room darkens, and many eyes open in the shadows. "Because I have eyes, everywhere," Mitsuomi coos. Saito flinches as he looks into his steel blue eyes, but the vampire snarls and hisses as he drains his lifeblood, but he goes limp and falls from the chair. Mitsuomi stands with blood flowing down his chin and onto his shirt. "Ha, ha, ha, a shitty snack," he hisses, wiping the blood from his mouth. Mitsuomi adjusts his tie, and his clothes absorb the blood on him as he rips off his head and absorbs the remnants. He places the head on the desk and exits, looking at Momoko and her stunned officers. "Kill the remaining team and send the heads back on the boat with the class, but covertly," says Mitsuomi. Mitsuomi laughs as he puts on his sunglasses and remarks, "Yes sir, and may I say it's like watching poetry in motion, watching you break prisoners. I have had years of practice," he says, disappearing into the darkness. The group disembarks as a woman with long black hair and red eyes waits, but the real Mitsuomi appears, allowing the clone to dispel and evaluate him. The carriage arrives at the port of Spring Docks, which is to the west, where they arrived but are still within walking distance. The port itself has 2 cruiser-class ships docked, as well as 1 airship farther west. The woman remarks, "Taitaku, I assume these are the emissaries from Konoha." She is dressed in a white coat draped over her shoulders, black gloves with gold trim at the elbows, a navy cap, a white pleated skirt, and maroon thigh-highs in white ankle boots. Mitsuomi says, "I'd like you to meet Nagato, one of our fleet's captains." Nagato nods curtly but gestures toward Kiba, saying, "These ships look very modern, but I doubt they surpass Kyumo or Kiri." Sakura adds, "Our airships can make trips to Suna in half the time of normal travel," Nagato says, cutting off the blonde. "Our fleet rivals if not surpasses Kyumo and Kiri in terms of speed." Shikamaru asks, "You have alliance with Suna?" and Mitsuomi nods. Mitsuomi responds, "Hi, Suna was one of our first allies along with Taki, Wave, T, and various countries." Shikamaru takes note of this and puts it away for later. "Are these the only ships you have or others on patrol?" he asks, and Nagato adjusts her cap. He nods. We currently have 10 ships in our fleet of cruiser size like my own, with 1 carrier airship commanded by Captain Unryu and 6 destroyer-class ships commanded by Captain Tenryu, she adds. Era, is Taito-kun revealing our secrets? A voice remarks. The group spies a woman with brown hair and green eyes, dressed similarly to Nagato but wearing a pleated black skirt and white gloves. Mitsuomi turns and takes her gloved hand, saying, "Sorry, Matsu," and kisses it. Matsu giggles as she interlocks her arm with Nagato. "It's quite alright, Taito-kun, but I have to steal Nagato-chan for an expedition briefing," she says, and both of them excuse themselves. Mitsuomi turns to the group with a whimsical smile, saying, "Well, that concludes our tour. He makes 2 clones, this one will escort you back to the ship, and my other clone will escort Ms. Yamanaka and Sai back to the hotel. Unfortunately, I have pressing business to attend to," he says. Sakura asks, "Piggy, are you really going to stay here?" Ino pinches the bridge of her nose and responds, "I do because of Kiba's buffoonery, but this is actually a good thing, I can gain their secrets." She somewhat appeases them, but she can see the cunning expressions on some of their faces. The group departs as Sakura glares at the 2 and says, "You better do your jobs." The clone says, "Please follow me, I'll show you to the hotel. The boss will see you tomorrow," and they get into the carriage. Tsunade scrunches her face and opens her honey eyes as a certain blonde begins to awaken inside Mitsuomi's house. The former Hokage slowly sits up and replays the events of the previous night as she runs her fingers along her neck. The bed's curtains open as a maid peers in and says, "Ohayo," or rather Konbawa Tsunade-san. She has white hair and blue eyes and is wearing a blue and white maid uniform. Tsunade gets out of bed with a yawn and flashes her fangs, but her nose detects some delicious. Tsunade looks between the glass and the maid and says, "Oh, I am one of Mitsuomi-sama's most capable maids." She then begins to curtsy by grabbing the edges of her dress. "Mitsuomi-sama told me to properly feed you, it's O+ virgin female 20 years old," she adds. She says, "My name is Belfast." Tsunade nods slowly and reluctantly takes the glass, thinking, "Once I reviled blood, now I need it to survive." She takes a few sips, her eyes widen, and she drinks greedily, moaning softly as she finishes. A pair of arms wraps around her waist, and she turns to face Mitsuomi. "How do you feel?" he asks. Mitsuomi's right arm is around her waist, and his left is kneading her breast. "I could fuck you into a coma," he coos. Tsunade puts her tongue in his mouth as his hand on her waist slowly slides into her pants but quickly clears her throat. What, Mitsuomi and Tsunade hiss. "Hungry, stronger, and I want you so badly," Tsunade responds, and Mitsuomi laughs, meeting her lips. Belfast asks, "Have you forgotten your meeting with Koyuki-sama?" Mitsuomi moans in Tsunade's neck, "I guess we'll continue this later," she croons, and walks away. Mitsuomi sniffs and cracks his neck, thinking, "Oh yes, very soon I will have my day," as he spins around. Yuzukage Tower. Koyuki sits at a large table as the council members arrive for a meeting about Naruto's decision to travel to Konoha for Chunin exams and the Konoha visit. Tsunade sits on her left, drinking from a blood-filled thermos. Koyuki is shocked by Tsunade's decision, but they both assure her that it won't affect her duties and that no harm will come to the people. Momoko, Najenda, and Oda Nobunaga were the first to arrive. Nobunaga is a former samurai from Iron Country and a military genius who agreed to follow Mitsuomi after witnessing his skill in battle. Mitsuomi soon follows and takes his place at Koyuki's right. "I call this meeting to order," she says. Najenda sighs and looks at the blonde, saying, "That was very underhanded of them, they were also heavily fishing too." Tsunade continues, "As you may have heard from your own sources, but a group from Konoha came, trying to strong-arm me into returning to Konoha." The small council murmurs, but Oda laughs. "I bet it you who pulled off that little trick, Mitsuomi-kun," he says, and Mitsuomi nods with an eye smile. "It is Najenda Taicho, but it afforded us a boon as the heiress of the Yamanaka clan for the month," Tsunade continues. "Hi, I played on their ego to face myself and 3 of the pillars in a duel, resulting in Ino staying in Uzushio for the month until I leave for Chunin exams with our teams and Enko, but I also got one of Danzo's forces named Sai," says Mitsuomi. Momoko asks, "Boss, do you think it's wise to double as Jonin-sensei for the exams? Konoha will undoubtedly try to exact retribution for the slight with the legendary class." Mitsuomi puts his glasses on the table and smiles softly. "Don't worry, Momo. Even though I am the Kage of Uzushio, I am also a sensei, and I owe it to my genin to see them through. Beside my right hand will run the village as my regent," he says. The doors open as Konan enters with a bow and then sits down behind Koyuki. "Esteemed members of the small council, when I took up the mantle of Uzushio, I did it with a goal in mind, and part of that goal is seeing Uzushio rise from the ashes to become a major shinobi village, the likes of the Big Five," he says. "However, to do that one must expand, and we have. Our technology surpasses some of the 5 and has been the talk of many countries since our rebirth. Many have tried to steal our secrets and our allies, but our forces have beat them back," Mitsuomi says, calming the council's gasps and murmurs with a wave of his hand. "The likes Kyumo or Konoha love to throw their weight around. Kyumo is the most militaristic of the Big Five and their ally Konoha has won 3 shinobi wars," Oda says with a grin. "However, a cornered mouse can kill a cat," he continues. "The current Hokage is a veteran of 2 of those wars. The current Raikage flexes his power by annexing Frost and Peach's country. Hell, even our allies around Nadeshiko and Taki have noticed Kyumo and Konoha forces around their borders," Najenda writes. "Then once word reaches Konoha of the heiress of a major clan is in our country, what is to stop them from declaring war on us, Nobunaga-san?" Momoko says. Everybody gasps in shock as Mitsuomi interrupts. "Ino has been disowned, but they keep her to have a child if needed, and as for war, I intend to do it first." Oda laughs softly, his eyes gleaming sinisterly, and he adds, "Oh, the butcher of the Colosseum will rear his head once again." Mitsuomi smirks, his face obscured by shadow, but his glowing eyes are visible. "One thing I've learned is fear is the ultimate motivator. I intend to show Konoha and Kyumo true fear," he says, and Oda cackles wildly. "So when can we see this war?" he asks. Mitsuomi declares, "Once the Chunin exams are over, I intend to declare war on Konoha and its allies." The room falls silent as everyone tries to process what was stated. That seems like the best course of actions. If Uzushio is to survive again, Konoha and Kyumo must be brought to heel. Both thrive on war, and for peace to be achieved, both must be stopped, Najenda says. Momoko asks, "Can we fight a full-scale war?" Mitsuomi smirks and taps the table, saying, "Oh, but we can. Our navy surpasses Kyumo, our allies border Hinokuni. I am in correspondence with Kiri and things are going well for them to enter into an alliance with us. And I intend to send emissaries to Iwa again to try for a non-aggression pact or even an alliance. I have redone the seals surrounding the island, but this time, they will not fall. Koyuki gets up from her seat, and everyone else follows suit. As daimyo of Uzushio, I declare that once the Chunin exams are concluded, we will declare war on Konoha and all its allies, she says, and Mitsuomi puts his hand on his heart and bows, saying, "It shall be done as you command."